Good morning. This is Sherry again, and I have a topic that I'm going to discuss this morning that has to do with basically, I'm not sure, excuse me, I'm tired. I just woke up, and I'm not sure exactly what topic in protecting my rights and my physical security and my intellectual property. And so I wanted to start out by saying I had two goals in mind over the past let's just say lifelong goals. My first goal is just privacy. I'm a private person who enjoys spending time with friends and interacting with different people online. I do have a couple of Twitter accounts that I use for different reasons, and I do have those connected and keep. I do my own. Oh, excuse me. I need coffee. I do my own management of my Twitter accounts and cover various topics that have to do with international uh, security that involves the United States and involves other countries. My background is that I started out in healthcare at a very young age, and also being a nanny. And I did this while I was in college, and I have a degree in uh, it's psychology, but you'd have to look at it more like a biopsychology with some cognitive psychology thrown in there. And I guess my area of expertise would be geriatrics, biopsychology, and I did study Asian studies, so I do know some Mandarin Chinese. I'm interested in learning Dutch uh, and possibly German and brushing up on my Chinese skills, my Mandarin skills. And I am also a certified paralegal and a human rights activist for those abroad and in the United States. I have found myself living in Arkansas, which is a beautiful, beautiful state. If you ever want to do any tourism here, we have a lovely road that I live on called the Heritage Trail. It's protected. It's a civil rights. I'm sorry. It's a Civil War monument. Basically, it's historic land, so it's never up for grabs. It's protected by the state and the federal government under that historic land. And I encourage any type of tourism. I've been on the site, and they do welcome bikes, both cycling, and I do think that and I know for a fact that there are motorcycle trips that come through here, and I think the economy always benefits from sorry, I have something on my mind. The economy always benefits from tourism and visitations to the state, and also making the state feel like a welcome and safe place for those who want to visit. And the economy is always on my mind. I noticed not just in Arkansas. I don't want to point fingers because there are several states that are experiencing what you might call some turbulence, and I think we all know that that's the truth. And there might be some of that going on here, although from what I've observed, with the military installation, they're still functioning. I know they're bringing planes in and out of there, although it is considered an unorganized territory. And if you want to check my references, because I've already checked them, and I've already been over this so many times that I feel that if you need any information or what you quote unquote proof, which isn't exactly what I'm after, but um, there are approximately 10 states with military installations that are considered unorganized territories. That scares me on a couple of reasons because it used to be organized, and a military installation needs to be organized. My past employers include uh, home health care aide in Boulder, Colorado, where I went to college and graduated from the University of Colorado at Boulder. I then got my paralegal degree at an institution that requires you to have a 4-year degree before you get that paralegal degree. So it's not, I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting it a 2-year school, you know, but this was a little bit of a, I guess you'd say, a souped up type of program, almost like a pre-law. And it was definitely a vigorous curriculum, and I learned a lot. I did not go into that wanting to go into the criminal justice system, which is not an interest of mine, but more of a how can I use this on an international scale. I had planned on moving to one of the coasts. I had really set my sight on the Pacific Northwest due to the amount of trade between Asian countries and the United States. However, in Arkansas, there is a lot of trade between Asian studies and the United States. Now, whether I can find a job here or not, because I am disabled and I would like to return to work, right now I have a pretty severe neck injury going on. So, and I'm going to try to show you without, I haven't had time to put makeup on, but I'm going to try to show you the neck. If I can get it. I'm not sure if I can get a shot here, but let's see. This may not be let me see. Okay, so so my neck. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Now this is an woo. Okay, it's not related to medication. It's very disturbing, and sometimes it is. I don't have makeup on, so I apologize for that. I actually can be rather attractive. I clean up pretty well. I'm not looking for dates, so if you're looking for dates, let's just say I'm ugly and fat. So, but and go ahead and take this picture if you're looking for dates, because I don't think it's going to appeal to anyone. That's great for me. So, oh boy, oh boy. Here we go with the neck. Okay, these are involuntary neck movements, and like I said, they're not caused by medication. And that's about enough, because it's embarrassing to have that neck condition. It can be very severe, very severe. And I don't, outside of my doctors, I don't get a lot of, excuse me, support with that particular condition. It does limit my ability to drive, but I have been just all but reassured 100% that, oh, there goes my neck, that that's going to be uh, three bends to the left. Wow. Okay, deep bends to the neck. Okay, let me see. Back on track. So I have a couple of personal injuries, and I have received some rather significant personal injuries in the domicile in which I live. I have had a very, very severe DVT. Some of you know what that is, but that's not uncommon in this town. That's not uncommon in this town, although we have great health care, and we have kind of a special environment here too. And I don't want to get too far off track, but there are 3 things I want to talk about. One is my health and improving my health so that I can pursue my I don't want to call it a calling, but basically what I've wanted to do and have been doing since I was a child, which is to write. And I'm going to take a real quick little break here. I'm going to advertise these 2 books again. This one's called Crime and Punishment. And at first you might think, oh, she's they say, a lot of people say to me, Sherry, and then they don't really say this, but I like it. It amuses me when I say it. They say, Sherry, why would you want to bring up crime and punishment? Does that mean that you're trying to get me in trouble personally because the title is Crime and Punishment. Well, a lot of times, the old saying, you can't judge a book by the title. No, I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble. It's just a really good book. It is also by a Russian author who is known to be one of the best authors in the history of mankind. And I've read most of his books. I think The Brothers Karamazov is probably the best because it's said that it encompasses basically the entirety of human nature. Everything from the bumbling father who was just, uh, just, I mean, the embodiment of the melodramatic, the guy who plays the fool because he can, because he doesn't mind making a scene. He doesn't mind offending with his manners a man of the cloth, or making fools of his children. And really, in the end, or at the beginning, he is really just a buffoon. I mean, he's just all over the place and constantly just loud, and a lot of people don't want to listen to him. And he has, I think it's 4 sons, I think. And each son has a sort of a spiritual nature to them that they're struggling with, and they delve into the different sons' sort of personality types and the situations they're going through spiritually, and also with marriage and women, and dealing with this very well, this isn't the book, but dealing with that very uh, dysfunctional family, um, who is of some means, but they seem to be fighting over the property and the money they have. But this Crime and Punishment, like I said, it really doesn't have anything to do with the topic I'm talking about today. It's just a really good book, and I like to put something out there that's helpful, cheerful, and educational. I would read this book. I think it covers illness as a metaphor, which is going to be a topic I explore later in my writing, because this vlog is primarily about writing, about software security, and about having a place to write. So I'm going to put this one aside. Like I said, Crime and Punishment has nothing to do with me trying to get anyone in trouble. It's just a good book because, every state in the United States has illness. And oftentimes illness reflects a culture. Not that we can help what we get, but we can sure try preventative measures. I'm going to briefly go over this particular book that I mentioned very frequently. It is well, in my opinion, it's just a starter kit on a guide to customer user support. And that has, in my opinion, based on my tech friends, all but disappeared. And a lot of us are not getting paid to try to remedy this situation. And we meet barriers every step of the way. My main concerns, I don't like to use the word um, infrastructure anymore. I'm not sure that everyone knows exactly what that word means, but it has to do with the upkeep of the highways. It has to do with the upkeep of the water supply, the electrical grid, um, the sirens that sound when a tornado goes off, um, being able to move from one state to another on the road, and airports. I mean, it has to do with everything. Infrastructure is just the physical the physical aspect of what makes it possible for us to move from one place to the other, or even live in a place where there is a sound and planned infrastructure with the telephone distributions, with the hospitals, and with people's personal property, and your ability to move about town freely, and also to exercise your rights to do what you do. And having said that, I am a disabled person, but I did not become disabled until I was 37. So I was not born with a mental illness or any type of serious, deficit cognitively, which some of you just by watching my blogs will realize that that's not an issue for me. I'm not going to go too further into that because my personal health care is under control. And as far as the people I've spoken with in Greenwood, anyone who can afford it, and that's a problem in every state. So just so we don't offend anyone in Greenwood, there are towns and cities all over the country who are having a problem uh, giving health care to their indigent um, population. I guess I'm lucky in a way. No, to me, it's hard to imagine to want to be disabled. My disability doesn't affect, according to what I'm watching and studying, and the feedback that I'm getting from the international community, because I do dabble in data science, and I've had that crazy old statistics class. And I also studied cockpit pilots and augmented reality, virtual reality, at the University of Colorado at Boulder. So I go way back with the machine learning, with the artificial intelligence, and also with the types of people that were using it at the time, which were very, very, very fit and in shape um, pilots. There was a lot going on with cockpit pilot augmentation and virtual reality, and it really just that experience and the way the technology has gone on these manned aircraft is that they have technology that will just blow your mind. I mean, they can they have the ability to see through the wall of a plane if they want. They can get a 360. I mean, it's pretty crazy, but they train and train. It's not a video game. Oh, excuse me. One might think it is because it sounds like a video game, but it's not. It's not. I have too many family members in the military to shoo that point. So this, the importance of this book with the computer and a guide to customer user support. This one we can basically just get rid of right now because we're going to have to sort of start anew. I'll be picking that book up later and studying that to see what I can do on my end to try to help all of us be able to have a pleasant online experience. And I feel I'm getting a little bit long-winded, but I'm going to break there as far as the computer security and also just making some, some references and some recommendations on some literature. If you find yourself bored or under challenged, or perhaps just in the need to talk incessantly to someone who has politely asked you, please don't contact me. What was the number? Cumulatively? People who may have been contacted, in a non-consensual way. How many? Okay, they've got a rough figure of 4,500 times over the course of 3 years. And I would just like to say that I haven't even had a chance to write yet. I'm still securing my computer. I experience a lot of data loss. I am quite well versed in computers and computer networking, and I would, maybe like if you can call it as a citizen data scientist. So I don't take things personally when it comes to evaluating data. If my town has a problem, I'm not going to sit there and say, "Hey, man, nobody cuts my town down." I'm going to say, "Let's make this place better," which is exactly what I did in 2015. I saw something unusual. some of the topsoil. In fact, all of the topsoil had just disappeared, and it's like that to this day. And I began to see that we couldn't do this alone. The U.S. is not the U.S. is not in charge of all of our security. There are other troops that come in to help us, and that's great because we help them, I hope, and they will help us back. One of the things I'm going to plug real quick here is you can always donate to the UN because I guarantee you they need the money and they do a lot for you that you will never know about. I'm going to take a real quick drink here. Now, the second thing I'm going to do is, this may be a little bit boring, but I'm going to tell you about what my vocation is besides data science. I pretty much knew from the time I was born that I was going to be a writer. Well, that hasn't worked out really well for me due to privacy issues. I can't even manage to get a draft out without it either being read or published before I have a chance to even complete a story. So I've got several little short stories in the works, which I've had for a number of years, and I write some poetry too. But I was really, really fortunate to have lived where I've lived, and that I'm going to pull up just a list of the writers that I worked for and learned from, because I think, I don't mean to make myself too important or whatever, but I'm just going to start a little list here of some of the authors that I've worked for, and let you know that these authors invested a lot of time in me, and they I think they wanted me really to pursue my dreams, whatever those dreams may be. And I learned a lot. I was able to ask a lot of questions, none personal, of course. And I'm going to start with some of the writers that a lot of the people around here haven't obsessed over and just caused havoc. And I'm not talking about everyone, I'm talking about just a minority, just a few. So the first author that I remember working for is Lee Killough. That's just the first one I remember. She is a science fiction writer, very prolific. No, she's not Chinese, and I'm having okay, she's pretty. Oh, I spelled her name wrong. Okay, give me just a second. Oh, it's with a K, not a C. She's a wonderful woman. I don't want to invade her privacy, but she does have or did. I don't know if she's retired now. Here we go. She's a science fiction author. And this is available on Wikipedia, and it does give the warning that this is about a living person. Oh my. Oh my. Oh yes, I remember her. Wow, it's just a trip down memory lane. She was my first science fiction author, and in Manhattan, Kansas. And I just admire this lady. I mean, she's a radiographer at a medical school and has written several science fiction books. So she probably could have made her living off of writing, but for some reason, she chose to stay in her vocation, and just an amazing writer. I mean, she just has written a ton. And I'm going to read a short biography on her. This may end up being a little longer than some of you want to hear, but I'm just going to read this right from Wikipedia. And keep in mind, it does say that it's a living person. Thank God. Uh, the article needs citations. I could probably provide some for you, but I'm not going to do them verbally. Lee Killough was born in 1942, is an American veterinary radiologist and writer of science fiction mystery novels under the name Lee Killough. She lives and works in Manhattan, Kansas. And I think what I'm going to do is see, I think she's won some awards. Well, it looks like, okay, here her genre is science fiction, supernatural, vampire, and mystery. And I'd say that sums it up. She's got a whole list of books here. And I think she's doing ebooks now as well. Let's see. Here's a better one. Okay, let me see if I think let's see. Okay, she has been nominated for the Hugo Award, which many of you will recognize for the best short story. So she's quite, she's quite accomplished. I mean, to write that many books over that amount of time is just an amazing thing. And then, and the reason I'm not trying, I guess some people think of name dropping, but I've really been around people who have been sort of in the public eye basically all of my life. So to me, I'm not understanding that term because this is my life and it's not your life and it's not a shared life, at least voluntarily. So that leads me to um another person that I worked for in Manhattan, Kansas. Um, and I'm not going to say too much about them because they'll always be boys to me, but they're men now, and their uncle was a choreographer and a storyteller, I think. And his name is Bob Fosse. And I'm not going to get into the relatives because when it comes to the children, I'm going to tell you what, I don't care how old those kids are. I keep an eye on them. I check on them. I give my life for them. Don't mess with them. To me, they will always be my precious little kids that I had fun with, that I learned from, that I put my heart into. I'm going to start crying here in a second. I am so proud of these kids that I was a nanny for during college. And I mean, oh God, if any of them hear this, I want them to know that I do check on you from time to time. And I am so proud of all of you. I'm so proud of all of you. You have grown into amazing, amazing people, accomplished people. And it's me. You may remember me. I'm not going to say a lot of names, but I'm so proud of you. You're all brilliant. There's two I haven't caught up with yet, and I do want to find them. But when I take care of someone, I'm not their bodyguard, but when you take care of a child, you are. That leads me to, I don't know if I can do this. The first children that I was a nanny for, their parents were in the military, two boys. And I really became like a second mother. And I really grew up during that time and learned to be a less selfish person taking care of these children they became first. I was young. I was about 20, 19, 20. And it got off to a start where, oh, they're kind of annoying. But after that maternal instinct in me took over, because their parents, being in the military, had some really intense hours. And it really brought out a side of me that wouldn't be here if I hadn't had that bond. I mean, it's a strong bond. When you're a live-in nanny or a full-time nanny, you experience the closest thing to motherhood that there is. And I was a professional nanny during school. So there's two out there that I haven't found yet. But oh, this is hard. Most were boys. I took care of boys, and boys, young boys, are very energetic and they're team players. They want to always be doing a group activity, and so that sort of helped me in helping them, in nurturing and taking care of them. If they fell, I put a band-aid on their knee. If they cried, I held them, and we laughed together, and they never ceased to amaze me. So I can't remember if I even said that the two boys I'm talking about right now sent me gifts after I was no longer their nanny. The most beautiful, beautiful boys you could imagine, and they grew up to be so amazing. And I love them so much. It just never goes away. And trying to think who came next. I think I got involved with an agency and moved out east. And these aren't even the writers. So I skipped over the writers, and now I'm talking about the kids. I did take care of one girl, and taking care of a girl is a lot easier. They, at that age, when they're real young, they like to play alone sometimes, and draw, and there is a difference in the personality sometimes, not always. But I only had one girl, and she was just the apple of my eye. She was a stylish little girl with a personality as big as Miami. I mean, and she grew up to be a creative, beautiful woman with her own children. And I noticed that the way she takes care of her children is the same philosophy I had on childcare. They go out, they do stuff outside, not on the computer all the time. Go to parks and everything. And that was just a beautiful, beautiful experience. And she and I went through some unusual times together due to the fact that the parents were in a creative field, and it was in the mid 90s, the early not no the late 80s. It was in the late 80s, and there was the whole Salman Rushdie thing going on, and we were right in the middle of it. And so, I mean, I was just like a mama lion, and that's when people, if you were in Manhattan and you saw a box on the street, your heart raced. And I remember listening to the man of the house play the piano. It's called calliope music. It's circus music, and we would dance around. And that's all I'm going to say on that one. But these children, their bond toward me doesn't need to be what it is, what I have for them. I was in their life to do a job. But you can't help but love a child. And I feel so protective of them. And trying to think. Oh, okay. Another two boys. I'm not going to say their names. In on the east side of Manhattan, and I don't know much about them. I haven't looked much into them yet, but I do remember them, and they're in my heart as well. And they had wonderful parents. They have wonderful parents. And one thing I want to ask is that there's been a lot of intrusion into my life. Some local, some very, very, very nasty, nasty intrusions that have prevented me from taking that legacy that I was able to look at, to be involved with, to become involved with, because writing is really where I'm at. And there isn't one writer. Luke Short was another one. I didn't care for Luke Short, but I was involved with his family, and two of them were Saturday Evening Post Western writers. So I don't really put one writer in front of the other, but it was just a comfortable place for me. And I'm going to tell you, it was all random. I don't know why it happened the way it did. I didn't seek out these jobs. They just happened. And oddly enough, my from the time from the time I was little, I knew I was a writer. And the one thing that I've had a problem with are these invasions. I've got several short books started. I think most of them have been read. Some of them have been plagiarized and already published in what I would call crappy. If you're gonna go ahead and make a piece of shit, because I can tell you what, I don't do tell-alls, all right? Which is why I'm very reluctant to mention names. The safety, the well-being, the privacy of my education in becoming a writer, the privacy is the first and most important thing. And I'm not out to emulate any writer. So I hear a lot of, oh, let's just say, that's got Wayne Overholser written all over it, which is a name they don't mention much, but which I'm not sure why, because I live in the South and he wrote Westerns. But, it's always got somebody else's name written all over it. And I can assure you, I started out collecting experiences to become a writer. And I ended up collecting so many experiences that I withered myself down to almost nothing and was writing, but it had become I was walking a tightrope, The experiences had become more than what I could catalog, what I could keep up with. So I guess the gods, fate, whatever, decided that the best way for me to come to terms with the experiences that had basically crippled me was to throw an even crazier experience my way. And hey, life doesn't necessarily say, hey, you know what? You're just gonna become a writer, and we're gonna make it really easy for you, because the easy part was learning from the writers that I learned from, and also a big part of that is the love and the connection that I had to these people, because I was a caretaker and a listener, and they did for me. Trust me, not big stuff, not like oh, we're gonna give you a bunch of money. They pay well, but becoming a part of that family, and knowing that I will protect their privacy to the death. All right? It's time to get out of my stuff. There are a lot of people here who need privacy. And I can tell you what, I'm one of them. Because this life that I have had has just torn me apart. I don't want any more questions about famous people. I'm not sure why, but people seem to be more interested in the music I listen to than the writers. And that's great with me. It's a great distraction. But I can't write at this point without having someone read it first. For some reason, and I have contacted the FBI. It got to that point a long time ago. A long time ago, I've been working with Apple fraud. So when it comes to security, I understand that type of thing. And I'm a behind the scenes person, I haven't even gotten to write full book one. And my timeline on Twitter, my Tumblr, those are not the books I want to write. And people don't read a lot anymore. So it's not like I'm going, for some kind of a big thing here, not a New York Times bestseller. And I'm just getting a little bit choked up because first and foremost is the integrity of personal boundaries, the respect. I'm not living in New York City where you can just walk down the street being a famous actor or author and not be bothered. I'm online and in my own right developed quite what they call a social influence. I got stuck in this stupid database in New Zealand several years ago with what we call some social influence, and it looks like that's quite an influence. I don't know if you know who I am, and I'm kind of hoping you don't. I want to stress I have 3 Twitter accounts that are all connected. They are private, meaning if I don't follow you, you shouldn't be able to see anything. My videos are unlisted. When people call me, typically the first thing I say is, you have the wrong number. Goodbye. They don't tend to ask about the writers, which is great. And I'm hoping that this doesn't start sort of a landslide of questions about them. But it's the musicians, I think, because they're more in the music is easier for some. Some music is easier for some to consume because you can listen to it while you're doing something. But I'm going to end this here with something that just absolutely, it kind of traumatized me. I'm going to read. I'm not going to show you who the singer is. Some of you probably already know. But I went to this singer's website last night. And I'm not sure, it may have been taken down. No, here it is. And I don't want to hear another word about it. But there was something so foul written on this person's website. And I don't turn people in on social. If you're wondering about the foil, this is just a medium I'm working with my photographs on. That's why I have the foil on my desk. But I'm not even going to reference the post. I'm just going to read part of what, if it's still here. I'm not sure if I can find it. I went to turn the person in. It was pornographic. It was sickening. And I can't think of one reason in the world why this person would be targeted. This is the United States, and this singer is like the girl next door. And it didn't just target her, but it was of such a disgusting nature that I went to report it. I mean, it was X-rated. And when I went to report it, and this isn't something about Jack or his job. This is about get a clue, get a clue. I'm going to read it, and it hurts me to read it because it's so disgusting. But when I went to turn the person in to report them, and I don't report easily. I don't report easily. But after reading what I wrote or what they wrote, when I went to report it, it wanted me to review some other posts. And I'm like, for the love of God, Benny. And that's not his name. It's just a saying I say. For the love of God, Benny. Why would I want to read another one? This one was bad enough. And I'm not going to say who it is, but I'm seeing hot trot for Trump, hashtag pink, hashtag ASSPLAY, hashtag me too, hashtag the First Lady's name, hashtag me too, at somebody, Dick House, real STD given away for free. Make America. I don't think this is positive. I can't really figure. I mean, I swear, but when it comes to the violent nature of the sex, of the it's not sex. It's a I don't even know how I feel about this. I know how I feel about it. I feel like I want to throw up. And then it says no more indecency. I don't even know what that means. But anyway, I couldn't report it because in order to report it, I had to document a second case. And I'm like, if you think I'm going to traumatize myself, Twitter security, and I'm not pointing any fingers yet, because how do you handle something like that? It really I went to bed feeling sick for me, sick for the artist whose music I listen to a lot, and whose name for some odd reason I hear all the time. So I want to get something straight. I'm in the process of writing. I do have an interest in music. But I want people to respect. I am a real person. And these people that have been in my life and people who may be in my life in the future are none of your business. Some of this is just very localized. But I think maybe, and I've heard that it's even bigger than I think. I can't handle it. I don't make the big bucks. I don't have a place to hide. I guess I'm hiding out here. But I'm going to tell you something. These people aren't as royalty as you think. They put up with this crap too. I'm not sure to what extent because writers, some writers, don't face quite as much of a violent outpour. Some do. It's time to leave people alone. You're a lot of, and I'm not saying this to everyone, and please keep in mind, my Twitter account is locked and private. If you're looking at it in your Google feed or your Microsoft feed on the newsline, because I've seen it, and that's where a lot of people are getting their Twitter. That's not Twitter. Google or Microsoft. Twitter is Twitter. I'm going to ask one more time for you to please leave me alone and let me do what I was born to do and what the gods or destiny gave me this incredible, I mean, so many shoulders to stand on that it would be almost a crime if I couldn't do this. Leave me alone, please. It's too much. I don't know if you know who I am because I only know who a few of you are. I don't I'm not out to make friends. I do the data science, I do the writing, and believe it or not, there's some crossover. I implore you to please leave me alone. I don't want to be isolated. I've got a I've got an account where I've got a lot of followers. My data science reputation has made I forgot what you call it, but the confidence level is very high. So typically, if I do have something to say, um, it seems to be in data science terms very credible. So I kind of went on and on here because I'm very emotional. I'm very sick of this because I feel a responsibility, a lifelong responsibility to the privacy, to the ability for these people and myself to be able to make new friends without feeling like they're dragging them into the quagmire of Beatlemania. And I don't think that people would act like that to my face, to their face. And, I get a lot of, well, why doesn't this one send you money? Or because I don't ask for it. I have money. There are writers who are poor, and there are writers who are somewhat wealthy. And we all seem to get along without having to have this big, that's not a problem with us. Same with the singers. Okay. So, if you want to go start a GoFundMe or your Patreon, which is fine, that's fine. A lot of people do. I don't have a Patreon. Not right now. I don't have time. I field too many questions about two particular singers. Not sure why, but it's getting to it got to the breaking point 3 years ago, and I don't know why, because I wasn't familiar with either person's music. I wasn't extremely familiar. I had heard both in concert, but for some reason, and I don't know, I will never understand why. It just started this whole thing. Please leave me alone. Please, if you know who those singers are, lay off. All right? Please. We're human beings. Okay, peace, love, and understanding. I'm out.